So what's the secret to page objects using Cypress? I'll show you how to create clean, reusable page objects that make your test more readable, more scalable, and less brittle over time. And if you want even more ways to create clean and stable tests, download the free Top 5 Test Automation Best Practices Guide. You'll find that link in the description below. If you tried using page objects before and thought this feels weird in Cypress, I'll show you the simple patterns that make it click. So stick around, because if you're not careful, your test code might be getting messier, flakier, and completely unmaintainable. Let's start with the basics. What is a page object? A page object is just a class or module that wraps all the selectors and actions for a specific page or component. So instead of writing sci.get some selector all over your test files, you give that input a name and you move it into a centralized place. Then you can do something like login page.username. This is great when you have crazy long selectors that you have to use a lot, and it puts those selectors in one location. So if it ever changes, you just can change it in one place. You can also wrap actions you need to perform on the page. Things like filling out a form and submitting it. You can do like login page.login username password. Page objects make your code more readable and reusable. Page objects have fields and methods that reflect the names of the content being tested. Another tester or developer will find this extremely helpful when taking over your code. And even though it's called a page object, it doesn't need to encapsulate a whole page. For instance, if you have a header and a footer on every page, you can make header and footer objects that will work on any page. So a web page can consist of multiple page objects. Here is the page we're going to test. Something I got ChatGPT to generate really quickly. It's just a simple login form. Not really functioning, but it'll do for our tests. So we got SethIsSilly.com and whatever password you want here. Click sign in and boom, welcome, SethIsSilly.com. That's all this web page does. Now let's head over to Visual Studio Code. And here I got a Cypress test. All it's going to do is visit that site. It's going to get the email and type in test.com. It's going to get the password field and type in test123. It's going to find the sign in button that contains sign in and hit click and then it will test that welcome message is there on the following page. All right, let's run it really quick and see what happens. Yeah, it is just filling out the username password and then there it is. Boom. Very simple. And now let's head back over here. What we're going to do is create a page object for basically this part of the code right here. Nothing wrong with this code, but if you can imagine if you keep getting more selectors and get something that's a lot more complex and we don't have well-named elements like this where you have giant divs and whatnot, you can see that it's just going to be tons of sci.get, 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 just tons of it all over the place. So you will see how it looks better with a page object. So let's start with just a basic page object. We're going to go over here to the support page, support folder, and we're going to create a login page.js, like right here. Sorry, I started writing this right before, so I'll start back from the beginning here. Now let's export class login page. Very simple class. We're going to have a constructor, and we're going to do, let's see, what we're going to do here, we want to encapsulate all those fields that we're using. So you can see the pound email, pound password, all that. We want to move that stuff out of this test and into here. So let's start this off. Let's call it email selector for the first one. And that'll be, what was it, pound email. Then let's create the password selector equals pound password. And then this dot sign in button equals sign in. So that's our very simplistic, very simplistic part of this. Let's see, let's get this working. First thing we want to do is import this object. So import login page. Cool, there we go. We got it from the login page right there. And first thing we're going to do is we're going to initialize it. So const login page equals, and we're going to be login page equals new login page. There you go. And now down here, instead of doing this email right here, let's go login page dot email selector, login page dot password selector, and then dot contains. We're going to do the login page dot sign in. So far, it doesn't look like it made things better because it's even more text, so it looks a little bit more cluttered. Don't worry, we're going to make this look a lot better. This is just the first step to kind of start showing you some of the power of page objects. Because the coolest thing now is that you're not using those selectors directly in your test. Because if those selectors change in the UI at all, it's going to break your test. And if you have multiple tests using these selectors, you can see how having it in just one place and you can only have to change it right here once is going to save you so much time when things change, because things are constantly changing in a real product. So that is the first step. Now let's do some more complex actions. I think everything that represents a full page, every page object that represents a full page, it should have a way to navigate to that page simply. So for this one, we want to replace this. This looks a little bit ugly. We don't want to know all these details. What if we change it for which environment we're in? We want to abstract this a little bit. What if we even change the URL for that login? You know, what if there are multiple pages where we can go? You know, just don't even want to think about it. So let's get this visit out of here. So what we're going to do is define our own visit function. And you can call this something else. If you don't want it to be like Cypress's visit, you can call it navigate or URL or whatever you want to call it. But I'm going to call it visit. Visit, going to leave, there's going to be no parameters there for this. And then we're going to do whoops, why does it keep wanting to do that? Sci.visit, and let me get that, copied all of that. Sci.visit, this, cool. And then we're going to get rid of this stuff. Login page.visit. Now let's see, is everything working? Well, you always got to check if everything's working. Looks like everything is working. Boom, boom, boom. Yeah, awesome. Now let's kind of encapsulate all this. We got this thing, which is basically filling out the form and submitting it. So we should encapsulate that. We don't want to, every time someone comes in to log in, we don't have them to type all this. We can just take this code. Let me copy paste this. Control C, go over here, and we're going to create a new function called login. And we're going to pass in the email and password. And let me paste in what I put. I did not enable automatic formatting. Bad me, bad me. Anyway, so there we go. Login, we got email, password. And let's not hard code that. Let's do email and the password and click. Now we go back here. We can delete all this. Go login page dot login. And then we can do that test at test.com and test123, whatever password you want to put here. Let me save this. Go back to our Cypress to run this again. Login page is not defined. Oh, derp. I forgot to, it's not this. I'll put this dot email selector. This is what copying and pasting gets you. All right. Now this is referring internally to these fields. So we got sci.get, sci.contains, we got to click it, and now let's go back and there we go. Everything's working. Boom, there we go. So let's look and see what we did here. We now have a very simple page object, login page. Has a nice little constructor, has a visit, and it has a login that can be reused anywhere and can be reused by any test. So this right here is the power. We abstracted away all the selectors. It's now in one place. So we don't need to keep hunting everywhere and changing a selector. And we have this nice little reusable functions right here. And you can see it's really cut down on the code. We had a lot more code before with each of these. We had a lot more clutter. But now that clutter has been reduced to this. But we can do even better, and that'll be in the next section. It's simple, readable, and if something changes in the DOM, like a selector, you only update it in one place. That's a huge win. Here's where most people mess up. They treat their page objects like stateful test files. A proper page object doesn't hold state. It's not keeping track of what you've already clicked on or done on the page or what state the page is in. You can have methods that check what state an element on the page is, but that state isn't preserved in the page object itself. The source of truth is the web page, not your page object. Your page object is just a means of interacting with the page, regardless of the page's state. So to enforce statelessness, I also make everything static. That's optional and depends on your taste, but I find it to be extremely useful when I'm doing it. So you don't need to instantiate any objects. You just call the static methods wherever you want. And there's no states preserved, so the static methods work perfectly. Your test stores the values you're testing, and the page object just acts on the page. Test stores those values, keeps track of state, but your page object does not. It's static. Okay, here we are in the next phase of what we're going to do. I'm going to comment out this login and this verification code really quick because we're going to play around with things. I don't want the test to keep failing and doing stuff while we're doing that. So I'm just going to hit Control / or Command / if you're on Mac. What we're going to do is get rid of all these little guys. And instead, we are going to create some methods to return the Cypress object fully instead. So before, you see down here, we're getting this .email selector and then passing it into Cypress. But let's make that easier. So first things first, we're going to define 3 new methods that correspond to these. First method is get email. Just leave it at that, get email. And this is going to be return sci.get, and we can put this .email selector. But you know what? Yeah, we don't even need that stuff up there anymore, that constructor. But let's just keep it like this for right now. This .email selector, and it's going to return the Cypress object. And you'll see why this is so cool in 1 second. Let's keep going. Get password. Return sci.get, this .password selector. And then finally, get sign in button. Actually, I should change these. Let's see. Get email. No. I think it's good. Get password, get sign in button. Cool. These are good. And return sci.get this sign in button text. And what we're going to do over here, we're basically going to kind of take this stuff and redo it. So I'm going to just show it to you here first before we undo that. So let's do login page .email or get email. And now at this point we have the Cypress object for the email. So we can just directly go .type and foo@foo.com. And let's see if this is working. Let me save that. Now let's relaunch this test and see what's happening. Oh, there he goes. It just filled in the foo@foo.com. Let me show you why this is very cool now. Now you got the whole Cypress object, so you can even keep adding on to this. So like .should have value foo@foo.com. So now we just chained a test onto that and saved it, and there you go. expect it to have foo@foo.com. Bam, perfect. Go back here. You can do the same for the password. Hey, login page dot get password dot type blah 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 and login page dot get sign in button. Whoops, I forgot to put these right here. There we go. Sign in button dot click. Cool. Let's see it all working. What's going on here? And why is that not working? Get sign in button. Did I return this dot sign in button text? Sign in. Yeah. I did sci.get. That's why. Sci.contains. My bad. There we go. All right, everything's perfect. All of these right here, we can chain on these and do all the Cypressy things. So we're used to playing with Cypress directly, and other people that will use your tests can also know how to use Cypress when they're doing this stuff. So they can chain all the Cypress commands instead of you doing custom commands for everything in your page object. You don't want to be typing set password, set this, clear password, clear email. Instead, if you wanted to clear things, you can now just go, hey, login page dot get email dot clear. Gotta comment out the clicking of the button so we could see this. Cool. And you can see now that it actually cleared the email. So up here, you can see it set foo and asserted that foo.com's there. And now we got that email and then here cleared it. Perfect. So you can see now we got a lot more power here because we're returning the page object. Now, we don't want all this in our code, so let's get rid of all this clutter right now and uncomment all of these. Control forward or command forward. And now let's head back to this login page, or the login page object. So now we want to change all of these to exactly what we had before. Very simple. We're just going to do this dot get email, parentheses, this dot get password, and this dot get sign in button. Cool, let's head back to this test and everything should work. Let's rerun it. Boom, there you go. Now it is a little bit more simple, but we didn't change anything here. This all still looks the same. I think we can still do a little bit better. And the second thing we're going to do here is change everything to static. So let's change everything to static object. And you'll see the advantage of this in a second. So get static, get email, static, get password, static, get sign in button, static, visit, and static login. It's not necessary really to put static in front of everything to really have static class, but it does enforce staticness. So you don't make your object stateful and have some other objects in here that are getting initialized and you have to depend on them. And you'll see how that helps in just a second. And also we're going to make this a fully static object, so we don't want to have that constructor. So instead we're going to change this to a static email selector. Get rid of this static password selector and static. And honestly, even these are no longer really necessary. You can just keep it inside each of these. So let's get rid of even these. Let's just put them directly in here and get rid of another step here. So pound email. And this is optional. If you rather keep all your selectors up here, go for it. You know, it's up to you. Really, there's no hard and fast rules. A lot of the stuff I'm showing you right now is stuff that I've come up with just on my own. I've heard like other people suggest things, and it's not fully on my own. I've definitely read articles, whatnot, and I've just done a lot of testing. I've seen other people putting in their own types of ways of doing their page objects, and this is the one I found that I get along with the best. So hopefully this will be helpful. All right, so now We got rid of all those. Now we don't even need this section up here. So now have static get email, static get password, static cool. And everything's kind of just contained within these get, or as I should say, getter methods. Keep that in mind, getter methods. They're basically like getting some private data right here. And now, since this is a static object, we don't need to initialize it. Instead, we can get rid of that object up there. We can just directly do it here. And now we just got rid of that one line. Not only did we get rid of that one line, we got rid of the need to initialize that object and keep track of that login page object. We just directly use that login page because page objects are stateless. We can use them static. They have no state contained with them. They're just helper methods, basically. And let's look at the test and see where we're at. Rerun it. Boom, there you go. It works. I think we have simplified it, but yet we can still make it better. And I'll show you that in the next. Make your page objects stateless. Make everything static. That really helps. So trust Cypress to handle the stuff that Cypress does, the execution flow, and just give your tests Cypress objects that they can act on from your page object. One of the most elegant parts of page objects is how getters can simplify everything. Let me get into what that means. Instead of writing sci.get every time you want to get an element, you can use your page object and use a JavaScript getter to define your fields. It's cleaner and it aligns with modern JavaScript practices. All right, let's get in. I'll explain what getters and setters are for JavaScript and how it'll be used with page objects. Let's just jump in and let's see how this looks. Okay, so how can we make this even better? Go over here to the long page, and now let's introduce a JavaScript concept of getters and setters. So right now we're doing the static get email, and you see down here, I have to do get email and I have to add the parentheses right here. Before it was kind of nice when I could just go like this.email. Remember we had that, the this.email, and we can just like pop that in right here. So we had a nice little easily accessible selector. It just looked like a field, a member that belonged to the class. So it just looked like, yeah, cool. We just got another object that was already in there. Kind of like just having just like email equals sci.get something, but you can't do it like this. You can't just assign sci.get return object. That's not how Cypress works. So instead, we can use getters here. So let me change the first one, so maybe you can kind of get the concept here. So I'm gonna put get rid of this thing in the email, just email, because that's what I want it to be named. And now it's gonna return sci.get email. What I can do down here, instead of get email, this.email, and now I can get rid of those parentheses. See that? This.email.type. This, I think, is so much easier to read than get email parentheses. Now it's just this.email. It's become a natural part of the class. Let's do that for these other two as well. Get password, get sign in button. So if you're not familiar with the concept of getters and setters, usually when you have a class, you're always either getting information or getting a variable and then setting the value of that variable. And these are basically shortcuts to protect it from you setting it, letting the user set it directly. So if I get this, I'm not getting it directly from the object. And then if I wanted to change it, I would make something like static set password. But since we're a static thing, we're not setting anything because we're not really retaining that data. But if you were making another class, you would get these setters and getters, and that would protect you from setting these private fields, and it protects it from the user doing something dumb with these fields and changing it to something they shouldn't. So like if you got this get password, but you don't define a setter, then that means that they try to set the password, then it'll fail. So if I put like this.email equals and I just type, put whatever, then it'll fail. So that's a 10 million thousand step high overview. If you would like to get me to go over this stuff in more detail about JavaScript, let me know in the comments. I'm not really trying to get into the works of JavaScript here. I'm trying to show the Cypress page object stuff. So I'm going to move on to the next part. And just showing how this kind of now works, let's now let's finish. Password. Make sure to get rid of the parentheses because it's no longer referenced with the parentheses. That'll cause an error as well. And this .get sign in button. And no parentheses. Cool. Now let's run this test again, see what happens. Oh, there it goes. It all worked again. And going here, I'm going to give like a quick demonstration of just that stuff working. Just show how nice it looks. So now I'm going to do like login page .email .type blah@blah.com. And of course, yeah, blah@blah.com. But you don't have to type the parentheses now. It's just a simple, it looks just like a natural part of the page object. And yeah, so it kind of helps prevent you putting sci.gets everywhere in your code. You know how this one way of referencing and getting the object. And if it ever changes in the future, like you need to go through a more complicated process to get the Cypress object, to get that element from the DOM, then it's still obscured behind this. Like I would still just do login page.email, but then you can change all the complexity here in this email part. So it really future-proofs your code. It makes it easier to read and easier to access, easier to use. So now we have all the elements here. We have static and we have this stuff. So now we've simplified this. Let me now get rid of this code and uncomment everything. And we already saw this running, but I'll just go back just to see it running. It's always satisfying to see everything working. And cool, we got this test. So just to review, made it static and we use getter setters. Oh, sorry, we already made it static in the last one, but we used getter setters. Those getter setters are also static. And I said getter setters, I meant only getters for this one. And that is a pretty good page object right there. I mean, I need to put the doc strings on there, but that is a good page object. But we still have a problem going on here, and it's something to do with this. I will cover this in the next section. If you want your test files to read like natural language, getters are one of your best friends. And once you start using them, you won't go back. They're really nice. Next, let's talk about bundling up interactions into clean, single-purpose methods. Instead of writing all your typing and clicking in the test file, move it into the page object. If you're filling out a form, create a film form method. Need to fill in a bunch of test values on the page before you can start your test? Create a set test values on page method. Give your tests high-level shortcuts to group together meaningful actions. Logging in, sorting a table, selecting something from a drop-down field. Yeah, just create something in the page object to do that for you and give it a meaningful name. So encapsulating actions reduces noise and makes your tests shorter, easier to maintain, and more beginner-friendly. When someone new joins your team, they can just read it almost like a paragraph. It's really easy to understand. This last point's going to save you hours in the long run. How you structure and name your page object files matters more than you think. I like structuring my page into two different folders: pages and components. Pages are for full web pages. Components are for reusable components that can be embedded across multiple pages, like the header and the footer. Or if the component is very complex, I like to break it out into its own component to reduce the complexity of the page object. This can help you break down a very busy web page with lots of sections into a few small components that are very focused. And finally, we need to organize our page object. Right now, I just put it under support, but if you start building out all these page objects, and it's here mixed in with other Cypress files as well, it's not it's not going to seem obvious how to use them or that they are page objects, or if you have other, support methods here or plugins. So let's clean this up a little bit. I would like to create a new folder, call that page objects. And under this folder, I want to create 2 more folders. The first one is going to be pages. The second one is going to be components. Now let me explain why. So I mentioned this elsewhere in the video. Pages represent a full page object. So if it represents the login page, cool, it has like a visit method, it represents the whole page. Components, on the other hand, would be reusable across multiple pages. For instance, you can have a header component, and a header page object, and a footer page object. Those 2 page objects can be used throughout the website, no matter what page you're on, because they're on every single page. So it's a reusable component that makes up every page. And it doesn't have to be on every page either. A component is just something that you can make a component for the header and the footer, but you can also make a component for a certain form that might appear in more than one place on your site. Or if you have a really large page object and you have a very complicated object in there or part of the page, you can break that out into its own page object just to simplify the complexity of your page object. But for now, let me just get this over here and let's just complete what we were doing. Right now we have no components in here, but this page here. So let's move our login page over here to pages. Yes, move it. And Visual Studio is really cool. It just automatically changed this. But now you can see we're importing from support page objects, pages, landing page, login page. And if you'd like to simplify this stuff, there's ways of doing that. But I'm not going to cover it in this video to make these import statements a little bit easier for your page objects. That'll be another video. If you want, leave a comment and let me know if that's what you'd like me to cover in another video. Now we got this. We got it in the login page, and let's rerun it. Boom, beautiful. We got everything in the right place, and then you can go into components and create your own header.js and your footer.js and keep going from there and have all these page objects that are reusable, and then it'll make writing your test much easier. I think this is way nicer than what we had at the very beginning. We could probably do this. One last thing before me stopping this video, just making sure that your login, everything is just contained on this one page. Your visit shouldn't go across multiple pages clicking everything to get here. That would be a Cypress command you should use. This is my own philosophy. Feel free not to follow that philosophy, but I find it easier if the login page just stays on one page. It doesn't navigate to a different page and start doing things. It's only about this one page. For me, that keeps it all very simple. This visit is simply going to a URL. Unless, if you can't do it that simply, I would not have this visit method. I would use a Cypress command, which is global, and do side.login. And that's also another video about Cypress commands, which I will cover soon, but not in this video. Hopefully that makes sense. If not, please ask me questions in the comments and I can go into it in further detail on another video. I just wanted to cover that really quick. Keep everything login page here, just to the login page and no other page. If you find code from another page seeping in here, you're not really encapsulating the login page, if that makes any sense. You are then scripting multiple pages in one, which I think confuses things. And that's it. Let me go back to my talking head. Your future self and your teammates will thank you when the structure is predictable and clean. Finding page objects and writing new page objects should be easy. So now you know the secret to page objects in Cypress. Keep them stateless. Consider making all methods static. Use getters for elements. make common actions into reusable methods, and structure everything cleanly. Now, tell me in the comments, what's the messiest test file you've ever had to maintain? Have you used page objects before? I want to hear your stories. Go to the comments and let me know. And if you want to get even better at writing clean, scalable tests, grab my free guide, Top 5 Test Automation Best Practices. I use it daily and you'll find quick wins in there you can apply today. And now that you know the secret to page objects using Cypress, you might be wondering how to use Cypress to mock data in software testing and automation. But how do you do that? It all starts by watching this video next here. I just totally slapped my desk. Right here, because when you pair what you just learned with what's in this video, it's way more powerful. All right, everybody, happy testing. Take care.